welcome to Kelly Does Stuff. Today I'm going to continue setting up my Halloween Village display. So I am standing in what will be the spooky town center of my Halloween display, and I'm building off of the Bayou and Haunted Hill sections. If you haven't seen those videos, I've got part 1 and part 2 of how I set that up over there. Now, I'm going to make a few changes to this section, which always feels like a good idea when it's October 2nd and Halloween is quickly approaching and you still have a lot to set up. Like, let's just go ahead and redesign it. Awesome. But last year, so I had the Spooky Town Center here, and then like up here, I had Trick or Treat Lane. And a couple things bothered me about that. Number one, it felt weird to me to have this lovely my Trick or Treat Lane section is like the nice, like trick or treating, friendliest area. And so that always felt a little bit weird to me that literally was coming right off like the Bayou. One of the houses of Trick or Treat Lane like bumped right up to the Wasteland Pub. The other thing about that was it was really hard for me to see because once this is set up, I'm only going to be able to go like this far, and it's really high and I'm not super at all tall. And so I couldn't really see down into Trick or Treat Lane because I do sidewalk stuff and there's like stuff like you want to see like more eye level. So I'm going to move that. And what I was thinking was I'm going to do the cemetery above Spooky Town because that sort of feels like it could flow. Like that would make sense. Like you're in this wasteland bayou, like, ugh, scary. And now we'll go to the cemetery. And you're like, but aren't you then not going to be able to see the cemetery? Kind of sort of my cemetery pieces that I have are bigger. And so it's more like looking at some of those pieces up there, like you'll actually get to see they're animated and stuff is going on. Now there is a lot with the cemetery that I actually want to do. I want to just have it be more of a cool like design, but I don't have time for that this year. So I'm thinking I'm just going to set up my cemetery pieces above up here and then do Spooky Town. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it, setting up Spooky Town and cemetery.
Okay, the first thing to do is set up a whole bunch of pieces of this EPS styrofoam, and this is technically part of the Spooky Town Center, but it's really the foundation for the cemetery.
Okay, so here the styrofoam just comes out really far and it's not necessary, and it's causing a problem with this. It didn't cause the problem last year because last year I set it up properly. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this off. I do think that this is kind of exposed in the village, but the thing is I just cover the whole thing with moss anyway. I could, if I really feel motivated, I'll go and paint that brown again, but let's just cut.
Okay, so this is an area where I have 2 Lemax pieces, and I had the idea of kind of creating like a wall and an archway in between them. And just to show you, don't be afraid to create your stuff in sections, and then I slide it in. This isn't the XPS foam that I normally work with. This is EPS foam. Just in case you're wondering, it's not the pink foam, it's the big white sheets of it. And then sometimes, this stuff here will break off. I think I've got those pieces somewhere, but a good way if you need to attach pieces that break off is I'll put like a little toothpick in it. It helps give it a little bit extra stability. Have your hot glue gun on the low setting because it will melt the styrofoam, and then you can't attach it because you just keep melting back pieces of foam. Create without making a mess? Maybe. I can't.
Okay, this is actually going fairly well. If I'm standing like here, I think this is where I'm gonna be able to be. I can see that. I can see that, especially cemetery pieces are gonna be, well, that's the other thing too, because I'm probably going to have some type of platform and I really wanna keep it simple. Angel has spoken and Angel has said, keep it simple.
Speaking of my dog Angel, she has a special reminder for all our spooky friends. One thing I wanted to tell you, if you're new to collecting Lemax pieces, a lot of times they will come in some sort of plastic bag. Keep those bags and put them in every year like that, because these pieces are often very fragile. This is the piece for Spooky Town. They're really fragile, and if you go to grab it just kind of on its own, one, it can be really hard to get out because they do fit them pretty snugly, but then two, you'll grab a piece and just the pressure of pulling, it'll snap it off. So I don't see if I can do this with one hand, but this helps. Probably freaking. Okay, come on. There we go. All right, so then you get your piece out easier this way. And actually this one is a great bag. I've never seen one that has handles before, but keep the plastic.
Time to begin designing a new display.
Okay, so I moved the piece of styrofoam off of the platform so I could create and design. And so what I'm thinking about doing here is continuing this walkway, maybe have this kind of up on more of a platform. This I want to elevate, this piece I want to elevate. I kind of want them to be a hill, but obviously that will take some more time if I want to do some carving versus just putting a couple layers of styrofoam and covering it in some grass. I'm thinking this area here is going to be some tombstones, maybe over here. This is a platform piece that I created last year, so I will keep that. And then all along here, I want to do a fence, which I'm like, oh, let me go ahead and build that. I can do that real quick. Again, it's never real quick. But then I was like, if I could buy, Lemax and Department 56 does have fences, or like you could do like a dollhouse fence. But then I have to obviously spend the money on that. So it's like a time versus money situation.
Okay, so I'm just taking you along with me as I create this new cemetery display, and I just love that I'm like, keep it simple. And I guess compared to some of the other displays that I have, it's relatively simple, but I just definitely can't help myself throughout this entire process of creating some details that I just really like. And once I get into it, I have fun, and then I just keep going. I do try to work as efficiently as possible, cutting, carving, and detailing all of my pieces at once, so then I can do all of the painting at the same time as well. Now, if you're just getting into creating platforms or displays and wondering how to get started, one thing that I always do is take inspiration from the piece itself. So these stairs here you can see came from the inspiration of the piece that had some little stones and a curved pattern, and so I just continued that for the platform. I'm planning to cover this platform in moss, so I'm just doing a thin, quick brushing of green paint here just in case any of that styrofoam shows through. And this is the platform for the Lemax belfry piece that I have, and I painted it black, and then I'm just doing my best effort to do a quick dry brushing. And here's a pretty quick and easy way to add a hill to your display, and for this I wanted to have some tombstones sitting inside of this little hill, so I'm just carving out little notches, and then I'm going to use hot glue and cover the whole thing in moss. And so much of this display is pretty much hot glue and various types of greenery, flocking, and moss. Now, gluing my moss directly to the styrofoam is kind of a long-term commitment to what this display will look like. If you aren't sure if you want to keep the same design from year to year, you could just place your moss directly onto the styrofoam without gluing it. And that way it'll give you some flexibility to make some changes the next year. Okay, so I wanted to continue the look of the stones from this front piece here up to the belfry. So I am gluing some cobblestones that I made out of the pink XPS foam on
on to the white EPS foam, and I am doing this because that white EPS foam doesn't really take as much texturing as well as that XPS foam does. So I can create some better detail in that pink foam. And I wanted these stones to look like they're raised a little bit, and then some of that grass is coming through the stones and sort of overtaking this path a little bit. Once I had my various ground cover in place, it was time to put my styrofoam back on top of Spooky Town and begin setting up my pieces. Many Lemax and Department 56 accessories give you the option of using a battery pack or plugging an adapter into the pack without the batteries. Whenever possible, I prefer to use the plug. It's just a more efficient way for me to turn everything on. Okay, so we've got our Department 56 3-prong pluggy thing. I'm just gonna plug them in. That's 2. And just pay attention to the type that it says that you need on here. It will tell you that is paint, not dirt. It'll tell you 55026 because maybe you have an adapter like this. If you look at it, it's actually, let's see, a different, see, they're different, and I super love that they do this. So when you're ordering, just make sure, typically these will say on them what type you need, and then when you go to order, wherever you order them from, just make sure that you're checking the number. I'm gonna take all this and we're gonna throw it back here, gently. There's no throwing. Okay, so one of the issues that come up if you want to glue all your stuff down first and then you add the cord, the moss is a great way to hide stuff. And I'm sure none of, yeah, see, I glued this down. However, everything, that's what I kind of love about hot glue. Like, it works really quickly, but then it's like, oh, you need to make an adjustment, just pull it back up. We'll do that. Sounds like a plan. These are some trees that I got at Michael's in past years. Unfortunately, I haven't seen them this year. I believe they are originally $20, and I would wait until they were about 40 or 50% off before I would buy them. I like them because they're really large and spooky, and in different years, I've strung some purple lights in between them. Oh my goodness, look how cute. It's a swinging skeleton. One thing to remember, if you plug pieces like this in, this was our battery pack piece, this was our battery pack, this was our battery pack, and we're doing the plug. If you go to plug it in and it doesn't turn on, remember that every single one of those has an on-off switch. And so check that before you totally freak out. I plugged everything in and this little guy didn't come on, and I was like, oh no, catastrophe, horrible things are happening. And then I remembered, let me crawl under the table and find this pack, the empty battery pack, flip it on, and yay, swinging skeleton. But that's another reason to plug things in as you go. I know it's so exciting. I used to do that, like wait till every single one of my pieces was up, every single one, like those in the back and the ones in the front, and then do a big plug in, reveal, and then you would have some situation where something wasn't plugged in and you just couldn't get to it. If you're looking for other types of Halloween pieces, I highly recommend checking out Etsy. These couple trees are from Department 56, and I like to do a lot of trees in my village, which can really add up at the Department 56 prices, so I will make a lot of my trees from floral picks. And another way to save a little bit of money on accessorizing details is to go into my yard and collect some rocks. And what's a spooky cemetery without a collection of ruins? I used some scrap pieces of XPS foam for these crumbling walls. I used a pencil to draw on the bricks, a box cutter to carve out some sections, and a rock to give them some texture before I painted over it with black paint and then some gray dry brushing. And then I hot glued some creeping vines that I had made, and this was just using some rope, some greenery that I had, PVA glue, and some paint. And this is just a really fun and inexpensive way, or relatively inexpensive way, to add some great detail to your Halloween display. And instead of adding a fence or a wall, I decided to go ahead and complete the look of our display by adding some moss to the front edge of the styrofoam.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and call this video done. We're getting a little bit long. We have the cemetery complete. So I'm gonna go ahead and split this into two parts. I'll do this part one as cemetery, and then we'll do Spooky Town Setup in another one. And I feel like the cemetery needs like a better name though. It can't just be cemetery. Lost Souls, Restless Souls Cemetery. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, but we definitely need something better than just cemetery. So I'll go ahead and show you what we created. And as usual, I say it was really fun to create this cemetery platform display along with you guys. This was a little bit different than the video I did on setting up the Bayou in Haunted Hills, where I had a lot of those pieces already created and I was just really assembling things. So I hope that this was kind of interesting and informative to see if you're just kind of starting sort of from scratch in a sense. You've got your pieces, your accessories. How do you go about creating a display? And this one I did try to do quickly. It certainly wasn't done in just like a couple hours. It definitely did take some time, but I still think overall, for a lot of detail, I feel like I got a lot of detail in. I think I did it relatively quickly. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys a little bit of that finished result, and then like I did for the Bayou in Haunted Hills, I'll just go and do it in a completely separate video that just shows the finished product. Thank you all so much for watching and creating along with me. A huge thank you to everyone who has subscribed. If you haven't, I hope you will consider subscribing, like this video, leave a comment, share with 5 or 10 spooky friends. I hope you enjoy creating, setting up, or enjoying your Halloween village, because it's pretty late into October already. Happy creating, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time.